I'm Alex Hirsch, the voice of Leggy C, or is it Craigie G?
I'm Ariel Hirsch, Alex's sister, the inspiration for Mabel, and a voice of one random girl in this episode.
And I'm Jason Ritter, and that's me. I'm Dipper, with the guy with the hat with the pine tree on it.
Boyz Crazy. A little bit of background about this episode. This was the first episode written by Matt Chapman, who was one of our writers. Amazing, funny, weird dude. Also a musical dude. He helped us with some of the songs and was the voice of most of these guys. We got mixed up. Who was Craigie G? Who was Leggy P? Who was Deep Chris? Sometimes they were me, sometimes they were him, sometimes they were actual NSYNC boy band member Lance Bass. This was Matt's first episode. I'd always wanted to work with him. He turned in a really funny draft, and this was broadly inspired by Ariel. That's why you're in here today.
Oh yeah, I would take full credit for this idea.
Ariel, how did you feel about boy bands in middle school?
Well, Alex, I loved boy bands in middle school. I was really obsessed with them, specifically NSYNC.
Okay, but you here was why I created this episode, because I remember as a kid, it was so weird to me that, one day they invented the Backstreet Boys, and Ariel's like, I love them, I would die for them, they're all my husband. And then like a week later, they're like, what's up? We're NSYNC. And she's like, Backstreet who? And so like when I was younger, when me and my sister were middle school and I was Dipper essentially, I was such a cynical little jerk. And I gave my sister so much, like I just hassled her so much about like, how can these things are constructed facsimiles of what a 12-year-old girl is designed to like. They've got like trend scientists who've created these guys in a lab for your enjoyment, and you're just eating it up.
I wanted to believe that they were authentic boy band member. I wanted to believe. I loved them.
Like the thing is, like in retrospect, I was the jerk.
Yeah.
Like I was the judgmental one. And so this episode was partially my way of sort of both making fun of that time and kind of apologizing.
Oh, well, thank you.
Because Mabel gets the dream.
Yes, she does. She gets to meet them and live with them and be their owner, which, I mean, that's pretty messed up, really, in the long run.
I mean, we sort of imagined it in the writer's room when we were breaking this episode as being sort of like E.T. Like Mabel with like the Reese's Pieces leading boy band members into her room. Like, can you give us like your strongest memory from that time when you were obsessed?
Oh my gosh.
Bands?
Well, I mean, yeah, like this episode, they're going to a concert. So I went to a couple NSYNC concerts, but I think the first one ever I went to, I was so excited to go. And then right before I left, NSYNC came on the radio, and I like freaked out and jumped up and down and ended up kicking this like bench we had at our dining room table. And I think I actually broke my toe.
Yeah,
I was
really
in so much pain, and I like went to the bathroom and almost cried, but I had to go to this concert, and I was hopped up on so much adrenaline. I went to the concert, I freaked out, I was standing on this toe for hours. Came home, like took my sock off, and it was like swollen and purple. And my mom's like, I think you broke your toe. And I'm like, did I? I love NSYNC. Like I was so
You were so excited to see your favorite band that you broke your toe, you went to the concert, you jumped up and down on it and came back, and you were not capable of experiencing pain because you were so hopped up on love. Here's the thing, is at the time I made a lot of fun of my sister. Now, this is our karaoke go-to.
That's what I'm saying. People love it now when it comes on. Our whole generation.
Yeah.
Maybe I was being a little hasty. I'll give you another chance.
Yes, all right.
Mwah. Let me go grab my coat.
All right, Robbie, I saw that weird CD. What the heck are you up to?
It's called romance, kid. Something you'd never understand.
You ready? I can't believe you wrote that for me.
I know. I'm just so insanely talented.
What are you doing?
Guys, the weirdest thing just happened. I think Robbie might be hypnotizing Wendy with his music.
Oh, Dipper. Girls just like musicians. You'll understand when you're older.
We're the same age.
Girls mature faster than guys. Right, Grenda?
Oh, this is Grenda time!
Okay, girls. Have you all practiced your obsessed...
I'm gonna call up Mom real quick and see if she has any other memories of that time. One second.
God.
I hope she picks up. See if Mom has any other memories of those boy band days.
Hello?
Hey, Mom.
Hey, ma'am.
Hi.
You're being recorded.
What's up? You're being recorded right now.
I I got a feeling that might be what this was.
So I wanted to ask you a quick question, if you don't mind. We're reminiscing about Ariel's boy
Love
band
of boy
phase
bands.
from the age of from maybe
I don't
6th
know,
grade,
middle school,
to
it's probably middle school.
to 8th grade. Do you have any standout memories from those days?
Oh God.
Oh dear. I remember just like they put out this Christmas album.
Oh, the Christmas album.
So I kind of, the rest of their stuff was okay, but the Christmas album,
And I listened to it all the time.
Ariel was still really into this thing. It's like, okay.
What? Let me ask you, how did
Gosh,
you feel
sorry,
about
Mom.
you loved the Beatles, so you
Oh,
could
yeah.
relate. I mean, when Ariel was going through this, were you like, oh, I recognize this from the Beatles? Did you feel a kindred spirit, or were you kind of did you have a problem with the music? How did you feel about it?
The music was okay. I mean, us old timers think, our old stuff was, incomparable to anything of today. So, in my mind, it was like, this is okay. It's not great like the
But she went to a Beatles
but,
concert.
But you went to like Ariel, you went to Beatles concerts.
She went to
when
see
you
them
were-
in Shea Stadium. She almost fainted.
I went to one.
and you almost fainted.
Yes, because I think I was hyperventilating.
But she was so far back.
They were just screaming,
Oh,
screaming the whole time.
So while you're mentioning that, we're watching the scene right now where
I'm about to have my one voice moment.
not the girl sitting
really?
next to you.
Yeah, this is. I'm that one.
Yeah,
That's
no.
you? He was talking to me?
Ariel, to the line. I love you, Deep Chris.
He was talking to me.
Yeah, that's Ariel's one cameo in this
I
episode.
still get residuals for that.
That's amazing.
So I mean, that to me, that's sort of what's so interesting is I remember when I pitched this story, I think there was a bit of a concern that I'm referencing the '90s, and is this going to be, by the time this airs, will anyone even know what boy bands are?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember when it came out, everyone's like, "Oh, what a great spoof of One Direction."
Right.
Yeah, there will always be boy bands.
It is
Always.
reborn in every generation. There is, as we're seeing on screen right now, there's a secret lab where these guys are made.
For me, it was New Kids on the Block. That was the big one.
Yeah.
Was that your
Yeah,
version?
that was yeah.
Oh God, the giant hamster wheel.
But I will say, I mean, what was that song? Bye, bye, bye.
Yeah. See, Mom knows.
Did you like? What about Bye Bye Bye?
Oh, I don't know. You get these earworms.
So you liked it. We're gonna keep doing the commentary. I think we're gonna let you go. But do you have any other just tidbits from the Alex Ariel days back then that you want to tell the listeners?
Golly, not that I can think of off.
Did we get along in middle school?
Not really.
I think you both sort of ignored each other. Ariel had her girl posse, and you had your posse,
Kevin.
and they sort of got along and sort of put up with each other. I mean, it was
Tolerance. It was sort of a ceasefire.
kind of. I mean, it wasn't, you didn't dislike each other, but you kind of ignored the other.
All right. Well, thank you so much for shedding that light for us, Mom. Well,
Bye, Mom.
I'll talk to you.
Love
soon.
you.
Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Don't disrespect her, bro. Don't disrespect. My bad. Chubby Z, let's calm this boo by posing for her, poster style.
Trying hard not to let my brain explode. I've always wanted to.
So I want to talk about this section a little bit. So
that one is Lance, right? There's one of them.
Yes. So part of doing this episode was because it was inspired by Ariel's love of these bands.
I mean,
we decided to try to get Lance Bass, who was Ariel's favorite.
Because, I remember telling you when you first told me about this episode, I was like, jokingly, in a very self-serving way, I was like, Alex, you got to get Lance Bass to do a voice, and then I got to meet him. Like, I was kidding. Like, I was totally joking. And then you called me up when I was working in retail in San Francisco one day, and you're like, hey, Ariel, can you come down to L.A., like, this weekend? And I was like... Why? And you're like, you might meet Lance Bass. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, I'm so serious. And I was like, you can't be kidding me about this.
You were on a plane by the end of
Oh
that
my
phone
God.
call.
I was like calling off work. I'm like, sorry, I'm sick. I'm leaving. And you flew me down and I met Lance Bass.
Yeah,
He's
so
awesome.
we got
so
Lance to do a
nice.
voice. He's super sweet and down to earth. He's such a... He's got such a good sense of humor about this. He knows that this is like this huge important part of his life.
It's pretty amazing that he would do
And
this.
I think some people, they have a hard time dealing with this super fame that burns really hot,
Yeah.
and then becomes this kind of weird pop culture, time
Reference
capsule.
point, yeah.
And some people they shun it, but he owns it. He loves it.
Mm-hmm.
He's proud of that time. He has his tongue in cheek about it, and he was totally cool doing this episode with
Yeah,
us. And
yeah.
he was really sweet with you.
Oh my God, I brought down all my NSYNC memorabilia and he signed all of it. And it was
That's
just,
amazing.
the whole thing was so surreal because I was, like 27 at the time or something. But when he left the room, he like touched me lightly on the knee and I was like, oh my God. Like I had a minor heart attack because that 12-year-old self freaked out. I think that was the first weekend I met you, Jason,
Yeah,
actually. I think
that
I
was.
came down.
That was when you
And
came
met
down.
everybody. And
I want to cavort like a woodland creature.
It's your producer.
he keeps yelling 2013 in this episode,
Yeah.
right?
So that was, I'd say, the biggest mistake we made with this episode is that not with Ergman Bratzman. He is a very accurate depiction of a record producer. But to us, it was really fun. I think in Matt Chapman's original draft, there was a lot of the guys just shouting 2012.
Right.
Like it was just really funny to us. There was kind of a trend happening in music at that time where it was cool to scream the year because that meant it just came out. But the problem with that is it does not
doesn't-
age
yeah,
well.
yeah.
And when we did the episode, they were shouting 2012, and then by the time the animation came back, it was 2013.
Oh.
And we had a choice between like, should we update it? Is it funny if they're saying 2012? And I should have just had them yell something else. I should have ADR'd it because the problem is we just did it for the joke. But now you've got fans that are like, okay, if it's 2013 when this episode airs and the kids are 12, then they were born in this year, meaning that
Oh
if
my
Grunkle
gosh.
Stan, and so they.
What if you just have that they are just stuck in
20.
2013? No matter what year it is, they will
Yeah.
always be saying 2013.
You know what?
right.
I'm saying it's canon now.
Yeah.
Take that, fans.
Gravity Falls takes place in no particular year, but these clones are created in 2013.
Yeah, so that's always
and
what they
scream
will say.
2013, and they're still screaming 2013.
Yeah, there you go.
It's all that
Out in
because
the
like
woods.
these characters, there's not a canon year they were born. They don't have a canon height. People ask me like, what exactly, how many inches and feet and millimeters,
yeah.
and I'm like, Dipper's head is half the size of his body. There's no connection. That's like being like, oh, like how tall is Bugs Bunny? Like if there was a standing bunny in life,
Yeah.
it would be a nightmare. Like cartoon characters don't really have years and ages. They exist in this timeless cartoon space.
Alex,
you
who
know?
wrote that song, though? Like, where did that song come from? That was a
these-
good little montage song.
Yeah,
That was-
these songs are sort of, if I'm recalling correctly, kind of a mix between sort of Brad Breek, who's our composer, who is amazing and could do any style and has a sincere love of it in his heart for like cheesy pop. Like he has it like non-ironic, deep love for it. So the fact that whenever we needed stuff that Mabel would love, Brad thrilled
Oh,
to it
that's
because he
awesome.
nailed it. And then I think it was Brad. Some of the music, we got some work from Matt Chapman, who was the writer, and then just like random little lines. Like I kind of would make adjustments for
That's
for the
cool.
plot. So the two parallel plots in this episode are obviously
They're music based.
what we've been talking about is this plot about basically me just doing this homage to Ariel's time there, and then there was this question of like, is there a lesson for Mabel to learn here? And in this
Yeah.
one, it was she loves them so much, but she has to let some of that go.
Yeah.
Like it's a love that any love that burns that hot can't burn forever. And Mabel needs to like grow up a little bit. And then for the sort of side story that we've got here with Dipper and Stan, it's all about backwards messages. Jason, when you were Dipper's age, did you ever try to woo a girl with music, or did you ever try to listen for backwards messages in songs? Were you like me? What was your relationship to this stuff?
I did listen to backwards messages and so. I mean, well, I tried to. I mean, I remember the first time I just put Nirvana's Nevermind on, and then it ended, and I was just doing my homework, and that secret hidden track came on 20 minutes later, and my mind was blown. I didn't even know if that was a possibility. But no, I mean, I definitely, I saw. Music is a very powerful force in the world, and I tried to harness it, but I played bass guitar. That my shyness didn't allow me to be a lead guitarist.
Guitar too, for like 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Yeah, it's a good. You're like, I'm in the band, but just
But
like
you're just in the
yeah,
background.
yeah.
do
Exactly.
Oh yeah, didn't you play
I
bass,
did.
Ariel?
Yeah, for a couple years.
Look at that.
Because my other friends played guitar and drums, and so I was like, well, I guess I got to do something
They always
else.
need a bassist
Yeah.
or a drummer.
Yeah.
I had no musical talent whatsoever.
But that's not true.
But I was obsessed with, like you were talking about listening to Nirvana. Like I don't remember exactly when, but we were just talking to Mom a second ago about the Beatles. And I remember at a very young age, she told me, "Oh, I used to love this band called the Beatles, and sometimes they would like to mess with listeners, and they put backwards messages in the records, and you could play."
I buried.
Yes,
Paul.
and she told me this when I was like 10. And I was like,
And
"Wait,
you're just like,
wait,
a
hold up,
second.
Mom."
Mind
Like,
blown.
rewind the record of this conversation. You can put backwards messages in music. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, people think it's subliminal and control people's behavior." And so I became obsessed with backwards messages.
Yeah.
When I was around 11, 12, Ariel, do you remember that time when I was obsessed with backwards messages?
Yeah, I do.
Like, there was Sound Recorder on Windows 95, and there was a little thing on it where you could reverse voices. So I taught myself to speak backwards. I learned how to speak backwards phonetically. I learned about Twin Peaks because of the backwards speaking.
Oh yeah, that's where I first learned about backwards speaking too.
I was like looking up on online. I was like, okay, They Might Be Giants have a lot of backwards songs. That's how I got into They Might Be Giants, because I was like anything that has backwards messages in it, I need to know about. And I did a book report. I think when I was 13 about subliminal messages that I got like a B- on because my sources were just like GeoCities websites where it's just like some like one-eyed farmer in like Iowa who's like, "I think that the goats are talking." I'd be like, "I've got a source."
But I do feel like, were you recording like mall music at that point? I think I kind of remember you going around like recording stuff and then trying to play everything backwards
to see if there were
messages
to catch
and like
them in the act.
Yeah, and like stores. And stuff like that.
I would listen to commercials. I would play them and I'd listen to backwards. And I'd constantly be trying to find messages. Like it went about as well for me as it goes for Dipper in this episode.
Yeah,
I went through a period of time where I looked for subliminal images because I remember I saw some ad that like it was just for something that had ice, but there was like a lady like in the ice if you looked, and I was like,
I remember
they
that.
do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I would constantly be sort of looking for visual subliminal messages to try to not be suckered in by.
And I was obsessed with those urban legends.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Right, particularly as they related to sound and backwards messages.
Yeah.
Like Mom had a record player, and I did try to make one of them go backwards once, and I think I screwed it up, and I didn't tell her, and I put it in the sleeve, and I just left it. Yeah, I think one of Mom's records is completely permanently.
She doesn't play them very often.
Well, it's such a scary idea. I mean, I remember being terrified of hypnotizing. The scariest idea is that you're not in control of your own mind. To me, at that age. So the idea that something subtly is changing my behavior that I'm not even aware of really is
scary.
Terrifying.
Well, and I think that was how with that same skepticism. So picture that mind at that time, and now Ariel is like she was taken over by a body snatcher, obsessed with these bands overnight. And I'm like, this is unnatural. Like something about this is planned and programmed. The deep state is behind this. Like I was just so certain that there was some kind of sinister plot going on.
When I think about you, I feel
There's a message in there. I swear.
Let me just close the window.
Wait. Here.
You are now under my control. Your mind is mine.
Robbie, what?
This is a plot point that I think. So like this episode came a little bit later in the season, and as I've mentioned some of these other commentaries, as the season wears on, your first half and your second half overlap in production, and so the second half episodes you spend way less time on, and sometimes things slip through the cracks. So there was a plot point in this episode which it's my eternal regret that I didn't clarify, because people are very confused by this turn right here. People are really confused. Did Robbie control Wendy?
Oh.
Did he actually change her mind, or did he actually was it mind control? And the story is supposed to be, and if people don't know, if people can't tell, that's not us being brilliant, that's just us screwing up. Like a story should always be clear. Like what the story was supposed to be was the idea that Dipper is jealous because Robbie is playing music for Wendy, and Wendy's kind of into it. And Dipper cannot believe that anyone could like Robbie because he's such a jerk, and because he's like I was at that age, he's like, there's got to be a subliminal message. So he becomes obsessed with trying to find a message, and he in fact does shockingly find a message. And there's a brief moment where we're wondering, what is Robbie controlling her with music? But what we're meant to learn is that Robbie ripped this song off from some death metal band, and that band did put backwards messages in their lyrics, but he didn't know. So he's just a dumb plagiarist, just copying music. And also it doesn't actually work. It's not magical. Like it's sort of a coincidence that Dipper found this. And the sort of more important lesson for Dipper to learn is he just dug this giant rabbit hole just as an excuse to just because he couldn't believe that somebody could, that like this is just him messing with somebody else's romantic life where he shouldn't, and sticking his nose where it didn't belong, and seeing conspiracies where they didn't exist.
Well, and he's really not thinking about Wendy in this
and he's not really
episode,
thinking about Wendy. And I think a lot of people
thinking about calling out Robbie. And,
and himself.
He's obsessed with himself.
Yeah.
And I do think a lot of people watch this episode, they're like, so he did control her mind? And I'm like, no. Backwards messages cannot control people's behavior because you can't understand them. It doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
Like, if it worked, there'd be a lot more of it. They tried it in the 60s. It turned out it was something great to listen to, while you were partying, and it's a great anecdote. But they don't actually work.
Yeah.
Subliminal messages, it doesn't actually function. Yeah. But at the time, I think both. I have to shout out this scene real quick. This scene where they're staring at the sun and they've never seen it before. This was written by Mike Rianda, one of our writers, and like it might be my favorite part of the episode where they're just like, "Yo, who is that big green? What is it?" They say, "Yo, what's this big green mess?" That's nature. Like that line always cracked me up. And who's that big bright round fool in the sky? I'm gonna stare that fool down. That's all Mike. That's Mike's addition to this episode is them burning their eyeballs. So I think this episode is like it's an homage. It's an homage to Ariel's times there. It's a fun story. I think.
Although it's not a really good Mabel episode. Both Mabel and Dipper are being pretty selfish.
But both of them have a lesson to learn in this story.
Yes, they do.
I think my favorite thing about this is like.
I love that they're just out in the woods.
Is how ridiculous they are. And seeing Grunkle Stan and Dipper bond.
Bye.
Like, I sort of believe that both of them are bad with women, and both of them would rather believe there's a giant conspiracy than that they have no game.
They just can't get ladies. Oh, this is the awful.
I still want Lance to go to space. I know that was a dream of his, and I want it to happen.
2013.
2013.
That hidden message was for me.